Thank you for joining us today at OPCC with Nadia and myself. We're very privileged and honored to share our time with you. And I like this opportunity to ask you a couple of questions, and hopefully we can have a great chat. So the first question is, how did you come to be, and how did OPCC evolve?
It started, actually, I took a course at Sheridan College called Family Daycare. And in that program, they looked after the children. My daughter was, I don't know, 1 or something like that at the time. And we learned more about parenting. And after it was finished, I didn't want it to finish. And Jill and I were friends, and we thought, well, this is such a great thing. How could we do this for other parents? And so, as I was saying, it wasn't really that altruistic. We really wanted to have something that we could do. I don't think we really knew quite what we were starting.
Definitely not.
Yeah, quite. Probably in hindsight, but anyway, and so that was it. We found a space at Knox Church, and we hired some childcare staff, and then we started.
Well, I think, as Anne has mentioned, we were young moms with new babies and little ones. I had 2. And also the other factor for me was I had recently moved to Oakville from Winnipeg, where I'd grown up. So we were feeling very isolated and lonely. And to Anne's earlier point, didn't have a group of moms that we could share some of our feelings and concerns with. Both our husbands were very involved at work and worked long hours commuting into Toronto. So it was time to step up and fend for ourselves, I think, is really what it was. So we started our first program, and when we ran that first press release in the local Oakville Beaver, we had a huge response from moms that wanted to participate in Mothers Are People Too. I think I've mentioned before that was one of our first programs, and it seemed a very appropriate name. So when we realized that there were so many other moms out there with little ones who needed a break, needed some mental stimulation, it just kind of spirited us to keep moving forward as time went on. So that was really how it evolved for us. As Anne said, it wasn't a altruistic, and it wasn't a focus on funding, because there wasn't really any that existed at the time.
Sounds like a beautiful story, and something that we still share with our families when we're, doing programs. When they hear that we've been around for 41 years, the name OPCC is always a golden name in our community. Why did you want to lead at OPCC?
I wanted to lead Oakville Parent-Child Centre for a number of reasons. I was actually, when I reflected on this, I was asked this, probably my first question in the first interview, to become the executive director at OPCC. And the answers then are still, valid now. And that's really because Oakville Parent-Child Centre had a tremendous impact on me as a parent of young children. And really that sense of community and the tremendous respect for the staff team that I had at the time. I thought this was a place that I wanted to be connected to. It had an excellent reputation in the community, long-standing, of course, and the supports provided to parents and children was just phenomenal. So it was a tremendous honor for me to be selected as an executive director there. And I remember the first event I ever attended after accepting the position was a retirement celebration for Jill Snidel. And I felt just overwhelmed by the number of people there packed into the center. And it was a really true testament to Jill as a person and as a leader of the center. And I felt, okay, I've made the right decision here because this is the type of organization I want to be connected to. And then the last reason kind of why I wanted to lead Oakville Parent-Child Centre was personal, related to career growth. So I was looking for a change, and this was an opportunity that I thought would be a really good fit for me to learn and to grow. And so those were some of the reasons why I wanted to come and work at Oakville Parent-Child Centre and contribute to the community.
It was really important to me to ensure community needs were looked at, and Oakville had been doing some significant or having significant changes to its demographic and to the families that were joining us as residents in Oakville. And so it was important to me, although there was a level of standardized programming and childcare here, that we really incorporated and understood what the community needed from us, and how that meant we needed to evolve and change as an organization.
Thank you, Kim. I've always been, with my nonprofit career, working kind of around education, and I really wanted an opportunity to work directly in education. And I thought early childhood, that's a gap I have, and that's where it all starts. So, let's focus there. One of the things that drew me to OPCC in particular was this idea that it got started not in a, oh, somebody should fix that kind of way, but this is my own personal problem. I am going to fix it. And I really was connected to that origin story of the organization. And also on the other side, so that's how it started, but then its newest program was the Welcome Home program, reaching out to newcomer parents. And for me as a newcomer parent, it was very stressful at the beginning, trying to understand how everything works, feeling very, cut off from family who wasn't in the country and whatnot. And so I wanted an opportunity to be able to serve that community and all the other families that come into the center, whether they're first, second, third generation Canadian, or they've been here for generations and generations. That sense of isolation coming out of COVID is not something that we have to explain to anyone anymore. The importance of the work that we do, the importance of having a space to gather. And so, me joining OPCC at the hopefully tail end of COVID was really so that we would have a chance to stabilize and then expand by reconnecting with our roots.
How was your time at OPCC, and how did it impact your own life?
Well, I didn't stick around as long as Jill. Jill was the long hauler, but I was there for about 8 years. And I think the thing that I realized, or I found out, was I was good at writing, and I was good at writing funding proposals. And the funny story I often tell is that I remember writing a proposal, and I had Lindsay in a Swing-O-Matic, and I'm busy typing on a typewriter. We will offer quality childcare, and meanwhile I'm cranking Lindsay going to and fro. So I think for me that was one thing. I never thought about writing much before, and I mean since then I've written 8 books. So I mean I think that is where I sort of learned that I could put a few words together.
Well, for me, it became my professional career. I was there for, I think it was 25 years. And I learned as rapidly as possible, and to Anne's point about funding applications and the whim of the government and the way that the tide could change when you least expected it. I gained a huge respect for charitable organizations, which are constantly going from one funding pot to another and having the challenges of keeping service in place. So I think for me, those were changes that I continue to work with as I volunteer in the community. I really understand how challenging it can be for different charities.
Yeah, so Oakville Parent-Child Centre, of course, has had a tremendous impact on my life. My own family. I had children who were participating in all sorts of programming back in the day at OPCC. I, as a mom, gained so many valuable parenting tips and strategies. And I'm going to give a shout out to Nikki Taylor, who helped with many, many questions along the way and was a huge supporter and advocate and just cheerleader. I always felt like she was in my corner. I also learned, that learning does happen through play, and how you need to give the time for the kids to do that. And so I think that has impacted how I then parent, of course, my own children. I also feel just the warmth, like every time I hear Oakville Parent-Child Centre or I hear something in the community that's happening, I just get that warmth of what a great place, and wonderful, wonderful memories of the families at Oakville Parent-Child Centre. some of the challenges that we encountered and were able to navigate through. It's just, all this wave of emotions of positivity comes over. And then the last way that Oakville Parent-Child Centre I can think of has really impacted my life now is really the role of ED was, as I said before, a tremendous honor and a great learning opportunity for me, and influences my work style, my work habits, my work ethics today. I think it gave me really valuable insight into and perspective on a number of things, including the demands of running a relatively small nonprofit, the respect and the admiration for the volunteer board members who are spending their time to try and navigate and guide the organization. Of course, when you think about the parents, the caregivers who trust us with their children and with coming to us for guidance on how they're parenting, it's an incredible responsibility. And so I really do respect that we had that trust placed in us as staff at the center. And so tremendous admiration for the staff team who devote their lives to supporting the children and the families at Oakville Parent-Child Centre.
Well, I feel like I became a better parent being surrounded by wonderful parents and sharing a collaboration with such a high level of professionals here. I think it really influenced some of the way I thought about my own parenting and my relationship with my children. But, in addition to that, OPCC was family to me too, and we went through some significant transition together, and the beginning of COVID was even one of those major transitions for the organization and impacts. And through it all, we just became tighter as an organization and a group of individuals. And so for me, it was an experience in my lifetime where not only did I get to be an executive director, manager, and leader, but friend and family member to the people that I worked for.
Getting into program, first of all, getting on the floor, reading and playing with the kiddies, learning from the educators, learning all these techniques that they use to help children, cope with their own emotions and articulate what they're feeling and what their needs are. That, for me, I feel like I have learned so much directly from our educators. And then the children are extremely inspirational. I sat in our after school program with a kindergartner, and we were flipping through a book together, and she said, I don't know a lot of English words, but I know this one is skateboard. And I said, oh yeah, this one is skateboard, but what do you speak at home? She says, I speak Arabic at home. I know a lot of Arabic words. Right away I could see in her little mind, she was already feeling a sense of insecurity with whether or not she could communicate, to her peers and whatnot. So I asked her to teach me an Arabic word, so that she would see that there's value to her language as well. And I let her know that she speaks English really well to try to, calm that sense of I'm not sure that she was clearly feeling. So for me, it's really helped me to reconnect with my vision and my purpose, and really given me a drive to support our families, to hear directly from our families, to have them set our priorities, to welcome their voices and their opinions into the center.
What word of advice would you give a caregiver who is feeling a bit out of sorts right now?
Same advice as I would have given 41 years ago. Get together with some other mothers and meet with them, because you find out you're not alone. And as long as the people are honest, if they're telling you that they toilet trained their kid a year, well, maybe not. But I think it's really good to get together with other mums and find out that, the feelings you have are universal. We all struggle with this.
I think the key is always to reach out for help. Depending on your circumstances, it may be to meet up with some other moms and make an effort to get to know what they're feeling and what their issues are. But perhaps you need to look at some of the professional services that are now available in the community that can offer you a great deal of support and assistance as you're parenting. It's not an easy job, and I think there are, as Anne said, those parents that make it seem that their baby slept through the night the minute they came home from the hospital, or toilet trained, or never have a temper tantrum. And we all know that's a bit of a fabrication, and the more parents hear that and understand that it's not that they're doing a poor job, this is kids challenging you, and this is what they do as they grow up. So I think it's wonderful for parents to be able to reach out and ask for help.
Caregiving is hard. There are so many unknowns. Every day is different as a caregiver. And you just never know what the day is going to bring or how it's going to turn and evolve. So I guess my word of advice would be, we and other people around you want you to succeed. So there are programs and services, offered in the community, Oakville Parent-Child Centre, Halton Region, your friends and neighbors. We all want you to succeed. So don't be afraid to speak up and ask for help. And I would say, one thing I'm not very good at, or wasn't very good at for sure when I had young children, was to try and make time for yourself. So whether it's, stepping outside just for a minute to get some fresh air, take that minute to just ground yourself, or if you need to text a friend who usually makes you happy, makes you smile, do it. Just that little moment of finding a calm or finding a joy, hopefully will help. And because caregiving is challenging. And I mean, now my children are teenagers and it's still challenging. So we have to look after ourselves.
Yeah, I've even reflected, my own children have moved on and grown now, so I'm in that empty nest piece, and you look back on these years with a lot of really great memories. It is the foundation of your relationship with your children. And I think if I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be to relax and enjoy them more. The time goes fast and some of the days seem really long, but the years go so fast.
Mm-hmm. I think it's hard to say anything much different from what Anne and Jill have said in terms of, be willing to reach out, because every other parent is basically dealing with some of the same struggles at one point or another. But the other thing I would say is, value yourself. That child that you're taking care of needs you to be at your best. So valuing your nutrition and your rest and your, water intake, all the basic things that we know, but we go straight through the window when there's another human being to think about, right? So value you in this process of caring for this child, whether you're mom, dad, nana, nono, whatever role you're playing in this child's life, value yourself. That is a tremendous gift that you give to that child.
That's wonderful. Thank you, ladies, for taking this opportunity to chat with us, and again, give the space to share with our families. I know they'll be very, very excited to see the founders and to hear your history and to know what you're a little bit up to and the connection. So thank you very much.